like create jobs for people and get your water park going and get all the good stuff that's going on in downtown where it ought to be, and make sure the parking works and the train works and all the different infrastructure that goes with that. And you know, we are really hard at work every day with local communities like Port Jervis in trying to get you some of your tax dollars back here to do you some good. And hello everybody, and we can talk about that in Q&A if you want. I don't want to give you a big speech. This is your time. You should know that that there's a lot going on in Washington, and we can talk about that too. Yeah, well, that's right. Yeah.
As long as you're working on one thing, that's all that matters.
It's a lot of motion and not a lot of product. Yeah. So, right. So we can talk about that. Happy to do that. I should say that one of the reasons we do these is, of course, to do that, but also to make sure that people understand that we also help people one-on-one. And there are people here from my office. Raise your hands. These four humans here, and one in the back. And we are, you know, we are your representatives. So if you're having trouble with an issue with the federal government, Medicare, Social Security, IRS, whatever it is, we are here to help. And you don't need to do that in public. You can just talk to one of us if you want, and we'll go to bat for you. We have helped 5,000 people since I took office 4 years ago, you know, one at a time. And we've returned about $10 million to those families for one thing or another that they were earned and weren't getting. About 800 of those families are veterans who are having trouble with the government for one thing or another. Come on in, it's okay. And so, you know, so bear in mind, that's why we're here too. So if you have an individual issue, just see one of us. You don't have to do it in public, but if you want to talk about it in public, we can do that too. And that's it. And you should also know that we are working very hard on issues of local concern, not just on infrastructure and downtown stuff and job creation, but also things like the opioid epidemic, which is a real problem in Orange County, New York, really everywhere I represent. I'm sorry to say, a lot of you probably know people who have been affected by it. It's terrible, and so I can tell you all the different things we're doing, but working very hard to bring back hundreds of thousands of dollars right here to Port Jervis for you know, the PRIDE program here, and for better prevention and treatment and enforcement, all sorts of stuff, because it's a big problem. And there's some other legislation on the federal level that has been passed, and others that I'm working on that I think will also help. But this is a real issue at the local level. And so the only other thing I would tell you is that we have about an hour. I can go a little longer, and so if you feel like you're just not going to get your question answered, please let me know, and I'll just speed up, and we'll do a little speed round thing where I make sure everybody who has a question gets it answered. How about that? And we have had a hard time predicting what our town halls are going to be like this year. Usually it's me and a couple of people talking about Social Security and the post office. Everybody gets 5 or 6 questions. And then suddenly, for some reason, about January 20th, my town halls became 500 or 600 people who wanted to talk for 2.5 hours about our new president and everything that was going on. So we don't know sometimes, so forgive us, but we have another town hall scheduled down in Middletown. So at some point I will have to leave for that, but really I'm happy to stay as long as I can. And you should know we've done 90 of these in-person town halls since you sent me to Congress a couple years ago, and we've done another 30 or 35 telephone town halls, which you've probably been subjected to during your dinner hour or something. So I hope those are helpful, and I'm proud of that, because you know, I work for you. You're the boss, and I take that seriously, and I don't think I'm doing you a favor by showing up and listening to your concerns. That's my job. So that's it. So why don't I just take your questions and we'll go from there. Yes, sir. If you maybe just want to tell me your name and
Bert Thielander, I live in Clutterbuckville.
Bert?
2 questions. Healthcare. I believe you support maintaining Medicaid services, maintaining Obamacare. I asked you to be very assertive. I know the House voted on it. It went to the Senate. We don't know what's going to happen in the Senate, but I think it's very important to provide health care for those that are less fortunate than most of us in this room. And I think we really need to focus on that regarding supporting Medicaid, or perhaps supporting single payer like Medicare for all. I think we're in a crisis, and we really need to be very assertive about making sure we all have health care, just like you do, just like the senators do, just like the president does. So I just wanted to reiterate that with you and ask you for your support.
Yeah, thanks, Bert. Well, I mean, you got it. I mean, I'll be really clear with you. I think the Trump care bill they got is a disaster. It's just terrible for New York, and I can give you chapter and verse on that, but that's the bottom line. And it is not because I don't think there are real issues with the Affordable Care Act. There are, and we can fix them. We should. And we Democrats should, raise our hand and say, here's what we want to do, and here's how we'll fix it. I've done that, and I can tell you what I would do differently if I ran the zoo, and I've got some legislation on this. One of the things I also think is that members of Congress ought to have the same health care we put on all of you. And so I have 3 bills that I call the Do Unto Others legislation that would, it's an idea we had to say that if under Trump care you're going to give a state waivers from any of the things they're supposed to provide for you, like essential health benefit coverage or pre-existing conditions or things like that, then the members of Congress from that state have to get the same coverage. They have to if you're going to create a high-risk pool, then those members of Congress from that state should have to be in it too. And that probably will never become law, but the point is to get people's attention on the fact that if they think it's such a good idea, why isn't it good enough for them? So there's a lot of problems with what they're trying to do, but there are also real problems in the Affordable Care Act. Interestingly, those of us who live in New York haven't seen a lot of this stuff, right? I mean, people have all kinds of problems with their health care and starting with the cost of prescription drugs and a lot of other things that we need to be focused on. But if you look at like the individual markets, right, what Obamacare really is designed to where it's designed to operate to help people who are uninsured. We have a pretty robust exchange in New York. We have pretty good competition. We don't have the issues you hear them talk about when they say Obamacare is in death spiral or it's out of control. Those tend to happen in more rural states where those exchanges are too thin. We can fix that. There are ways to do it. I'm on Obamacare in the DC exchange. That's required under the law. So I and my family have health insurance through Obamacare on the DC exchange for the individual market. A lot of people don't know that. I know, like the internet, you hear like I have like super free healthcare forever or something, and I get my own hospital somewhere. But I'm on Obamacare, and I have a great Aetna plan. It's a gold plan or whatever. I mean, I pay for it, right? But there's no reason we couldn't expand access to like the DC exchange to people in those markets where there is not enough competition. We could do that. There are provisions in the Affordable Care Act for regionalizing some of these markets. We could also let people to buy into Medicare, as you're pointing out, either because you believe in a single payer system and you want to move that way, or because you just think we could make it available to more people. There are solutions to this, right? And those would help round out some of the issues in the Affordable Care Act. Biggest thing we got to do is we got to get the cost out of your healthcare. Healthcare costs too much. That's the point. And these guys are saying, well, we can lower your premiums, but I'm going to give you crappy coverage.
What about tort reform?
So, well, I'll talk to anybody about anything that will get the cost out of the system, sure. But really, don't be fooled by somebody who says, I'm going to give you the car's going to be more expensive. It's just going to have 3 tires, right? I mean, and that's, if I take away your prescription drug coverage, if I don't cover, maternity care, if I don't cover hospitalization, if I give you an annual limit or a lifetime cap, we've lived in that world. So I can lower your premium, and then your kid's going to get cancer. You're going to find out you're going to have to declare bankruptcy in year 2 because you hit the lifetime limit. Behavioral service, mental, but it is a classic case of the baby with the bathwater. So, throw out the bathwater, keep the baby. Yes, ma'am.
I find with Medicare, doctors' fees are capped. Hospital fees are capped. Government-run insurance, it's capped. But if you turn it over to the insurance companies, they can charge whatever they want, do whatever they want, and that's why it's out of control. That's why single payer is so great.
Yeah,
because the government does have a say over capping the fees.
Yeah, I'm not rushing over to be for single payer, and let me tell you why. I am very interested in this, and I think there's a lot of good examples around the world where you can say, wow, there's a lot of stuff there that works better than what we do here, for sure. I do worry, particularly there's a particular single payer bill that's in Congress right now where we enshrine the fee-for-service system. I'm worried about veterans health care under that. There's some other things that concern me about it, but I'm looking at it. And I do think it's a fair question to say, do we want to take $13 trillion out of the private sector and put it in the public sector, which is what you'd be doing. You'd increase everybody's tax burden a lot. Now you'd be lowering your insurance premiums, presumably, right? So the question is, where do you end up? But you are moving a lot of stuff out of the private sector into the public sector, and there is going to be some concern. I would have a big concern around whether we're still going to have the energy and the creativity and the research and the advances that we've always had in our healthcare, even if we spread the availability and the access, which is the real advantage of single payer. So I'm looking at it. But here's the thing with single payer, to be honest with you, is that like we're in the middle of this big fight right now. And I know there's this kind of, it's an academic conversation, because guess what, I got a Republican in the House and a Republican Senate and a Republican president. The chance of getting a single payer system right now are zero. The fight is on whether we throw out everything good with the Affordable Care Act because we don't like some things that are bad, or what I like to do, we fix the stuff that's bad and we keep what's good, and we have an adult conversation on that and get something done. And I just don't want to spin my wheels on something that I think is largely,
Oh, I get that, but
a
like
policy.
my premiums, my
Doesn't
insurance,
mean I'm
my
thinking
insurance
about it.
premiums are like $900 a month. I'm paying $110 for Medicare, and my care is the best in the world.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And I think that
And I've never used my insurance. All these premiums that I paid over like 15 years,
right.
I've never seen anything.
Well, and I do think that for folks who are more conservative or who are worried about socialized medicine or public medicine, you should look what's happening. What's happening is we did the Affordable Care Act and there are problems with it. And then when we go to repeal it, everybody says, oh, wait, there's all the stuff we want to keep.
Mm-hmm.
And if these guys aren't careful, this Trump care thing is such a bad idea
It's a
that
tax
what they're
credit.
leading a bunch of people to say, well, why don't we just have Medicare for everybody, which is single payer. So if they were smart, they'd work with us on fixing the Affordable Care Act right now, because what they're going to end up with is flat out single payer. And all these insurance companies are going to get put out of business, and because people are so sick of the complexity and the cost, that I think that a lot of people are starting to say, who wouldn't have before, yeah, it's socializing. But I'm not sold. I'm not there yet. I want to fix the Affordable Care Act now while we can, and I do not want to go down this road that they want to go down, which I think would be really bad for New York. Yes, sir.
I'm Jerry Cook.
Hi, Jerry.
Hello, Congressman. This is a quote from Senator Paul Rand. My concern is that we're going to pass a Republican bill and we're going to make the healthcare industry profit $30 billion a year. It's not the job of government to be doling out money to private industry. So in light of that statement, plus the fact that Australia, Canada, our European allies have universal health care, plus the fact America is the only country in the industrialized free world who uses the much more costly insurance system, plus the fact that even Donald Trump told the Australian Prime Minister their system is better.
Yeah. You quote Donald Trump to me now?
Republican conservatives want President Trump to fulfill his promise of a cheaper and better healthcare system. So my question is, Congressman, do you think that if Democratic progressives and conservative Republicans join forces, can America accomplish getting cheaper, more affordable care that covers every American without the threat of losing health care and the unaffordable cost of pre-existing conditions, which is non-existent in Europe? They don't have any of these problems. It's all because of the insurance industry. So I think we should, I think between the progressives and the conservatives that want the dream of cheaper and better, I think if we combine forces, we can accomplish this.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much same answer.
But the insurance companies are not the way to go.
How do you get through to the Republican, to the other representatives?
Hold that thought. I mean, one, Rand Paul and the conservatives are not going to work with us on single payer, so there's that.
Well, that we don't know yet.
But so even if I told he was in here saying that's what we need, And what I'm trying to tell you is that I'm a pretty practical guy, Jerry, and right now, you know, when, I mean, you're talking to a guy who, everywhere I look are elected Republicans, except my man Kelly Decker over there. God bless you people in Port Jervis. But as a Democrat in a Republican district that voted for Donald Trump, your neighbors voted for Donald Trump, you know, and as a guy who serves in Congress is run by Republicans, the Senate run by Republicans, the President's Republican, you know, the conversation that is worth having right now, unless I'm just teaching a seminar at a college campus, is can we fix what's wrong with the Affordable Care Act? Can we continue the gains, the coverage gains we've made, which are enormous? Can we shore up the Medicaid availability for folks who are living and dying by it right now, both because of the need for health care, but also things like the opioid epidemic or nursing home care, long-term care for folks. And I think those things are doable because we are winning the fight on Trump care, and I believe there's going to be an opportunity to work together like adults, like we should next year or later this year. And I think we can make real progress. If we can't get there on that, I mean, I'm not closing the door on any of this stuff, but I do think that's the space we're living in, right? I mean, we're not this notion that because we're hanging by a thread on the Affordable Care Act being repealed, we can somehow pass single payer, I think is unrealistic right now. That's all I'm saying. So we wanted to get in here and cut you off. But I hear where you're coming from.
CEOs of healthcare, right, health insurance.
Yeah, they do pretty well.
Yeah, and we're spending what, $200 million and nobody's seen a doctor yet. It's an insanity.
I know.
The rest of the world's
Ask
laughing
how
at
much
us.
we're spending on torts, on malpractice suits.
Right. She's
Yeah,
not going to
yeah.
follow you on
Yeah,
single
they
payer either.
formula.
I'll tell you that right now. Go ahead, sir.
How do you get through to other members of Congress whose offices, as soon as it comes up as a 845 area code on their phone, you get shut off. You don't even get to the recorded
What other
message.
member of Congress would you be talking about there?
Yeah, but how, you know, how do we get our thoughts
Actually, he
into
will.
some of
He does.
there are moderate Republicans
Yeah.
who will accept certain parts of the Affordable Care Act. There are, you know, I think calling it the Obamacare is something that should not be done by a Democrat because it just
Yeah, sure.
You know, Mitch McConnell said he's gonna, anything that has Obama's name on it, he's gonna block.
And he's
And
done.
every time you bring up Obamacare, it's a block.
I know.
Block.
They
But
don't
how
have
do we get
They
to
don't
those
have
people?
Obama to kick around anymore.
Yeah.
so.
How do we
have to find some
get
bills to scare you with, yeah.
You know, there's, you know, Leonard in New Jersey, there's Republicans in Pennsylvania that are moderates.
Well, I will
that
tell you, I
may
mean,
come aboard, but
well, look what's happening, right? So they passed this bill in the House. They could only get, well, the president said this thing about how he was able to get 48 out of 52 votes for something in the Senate. Now, what he didn't say is 100% of those are Republicans, right? There's actually 48 Democrats, right? So you talk about 52 Republicans and you only get to 48.
48
And the
to
truth
4.
is they weren't at 48. I mean, that was just 4 people said publicly they didn't want to go there.
Yeah.
And the reason is because, yeah, if you're from Ohio or you're from West Virginia or you're from a lot of these states where Medicaid expansion has been a lifeline for people, where they're not ready to kind of throw in the towel on, you know, going back to the world where they could deny you coverage for pre-existing conditions or essential health benefits, you know, wouldn't be guaranteed and all that sort of stuff. So what they are finding is that the public is not going there with them. And that is our opportunity. And those Republicans who represent those areas in the House are getting the message loud and clear because they've been getting their head handed into them in meetings like this one, those who were brave enough to do it. You may know I did a little town hall a little north of here recently,
Yes,
but
that was awesome.
it's because, you know, I felt pretty strongly that if you're gonna do something this big and you can't stand on your own 2 feet and explain to the people who sent you to Washington something's wrong, and about 15 of them did town halls out of the 471 that are, or 400 and, how many are there? 451, I guess, that are in the House. So I do think we're getting there because I think the public is really drilled in now on what they're talking about. They don't like it, and they're looking at a bunch of us saying there's got to be a better way to go, and there's a better way to go. And you know, that's how it should have started. But you know, sometimes we have trouble getting around to the obvious thing. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Congressman.
Nice to see you.
Good to see you again.
Tell me your name again.
Nick Muscarella.
Nick, right?
Yeah. I just have a modest proposal, which would be a permutation, a step towards unified healthcare, which would be that any person who served in the military, you know, going back to World War I, if you may say so, and his family, right, are entitled to the same federal group health insurance that federal employees get. Now, the beauty of this would be is that,
Okay, but right now they're supposed to get VA care, which.
no, I'm not talking about VA care for his dependents, for his wife and his children.
Yeah, right.
In other words, the idea would be a step towards universal health care or a single payer
Yeah,
system.
yeah, I know what you're saying.
Right? In other words, you'd be able to get some kind of sentiment,
coverage,
probably
yeah.
even amongst Republicans, for this idea. If you serve in the military, you're entitled to the same group life insurance that federal employees get. That seems like a very modest proposal. The other beauty of it too is,
Well, I guess the issue is whether you take them out of the TRICARE system, right? You're in the TRICARE system still in VA, right?
Well-
So I have two
Yeah.
combat veterans on my staff, that's one of them,
Yeah.
from Orange County, Sean Doyle. The only one here, but you're still on TRICARE?
Yes, sir.
Right, so,
No, I'm not talking about a person who served on active duty and then was released either with a wound. I'm talking about somebody who's even a member of the Air National Guard.
Yeah.
Or somebody who was in World War I, but
TRICARE too, though, right? Yeah, same answer. So I hear what you're saying, which is like, and it's a version of what we're talking about, which is like, Nick, I know where you're getting at, which is like, look, we can cobble together ways for people in the individual market either to buy into Medicare or to be on an exchange where there's more competition, or we can probably make healthcare a little more accessible. I mean, I'm open to taking some of the gold plating off of the lower level of plan if it makes it a little more affordable. I mean, there's a kind of common sense area there. I don't want to hollow it out and give you crappy coverage. We ought to insist that healthy younger people have coverage. By the way, the subsidies in the Affordable Care Act make that possible, and they go up as the cost of your insurance goes up, whereas the crummy credits they'll give you in Trump Care won't, and they won't be any good, and people won't use them. That's why you get such high uninsured under that plan, CBO tells us. So I know where you're going with this, which is that, like CHIP, like other things, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get as many people covered
right.
in as many plans that
Yeah, if I may
spread
interrupt
risk, right?
here.
Yeah.
There are many people that serve in the military that are not entitled to TRICARE. I'll give you a good example. You take my uncles who served during World War II, my Uncle Andrew. He did his 2 years in the Navy, fought in World War II. He was entitled to veterans benefits after he came out. His family wasn't entitled to TRICARE. Now, he worked for the sanitation in New York and he received city benefits for his family.
Right.
TRICARE wasn't open to him.
So what's wrong with that?
Well, there's
There's
nothing
a-
wrong with it. I'm saying is that there are
employees-
people out there who don't have the opportunity of working for the sanitation department or having good health care to another means.
Right.
You might have a stranded veteran out there who, for one reason or the other, doesn't fit into the categories that allow them to use TRICARE. Now, what I'm saying is what this plan would do is this would incorporate more people in the federal health care system, right? And it wouldn't be a single payer system, but it'd be a step towards that. And maybe after this gains some popularity, especially amongst the American public and of course the people who use it, they'll think, well, maybe a single payer system is a good idea.
Yeah, okay, I got it. Thanks, Nick.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
For those of us that are not into politics, could you please explain the process? When I spoke to Senator Baumsack, he was at a chamber breakfast,
Mhm.
and he was talking about different bills that are trying to be passed.
Right.
Can you explain what the steps are when it goes from the people, when we're talking to you,
Sure.
and you're taking it where, and then it goes to what, and how long does it take to go to the next step? And if it was approved,
Yeah, you
Well,
have me
here's
right
my
up to the how long it takes.
if it was approved,
Okay.
when would it go into effect?
All right, well, so, what's your name?
Nancy.
Nancy. So I guess first I'm gonna ask what we're doing, and so I don't support the president's plan. I don't, unfortunately, think the president really knows what's in his plan. And I don't say that to be, I'm not saying that to, I just don't think the president pays real close attention to the policy. And that's fine if he wants to be floating up here, but some of us have to. And what's in that plan is not good for New York. And there is a better way to go. And so I take your challenge seriously. We should support something good, not just be against what is bad. I think we're getting there, by the way. I do think the public has really come alive on this, so thank you for those of you who've been active. I mean, if you don't think it matters, it does. I mean, people being involved has really slowed down this kind of rush to do this thing. And you can see where they are. For those of you following, they got a bill through the House, but it's not going anywhere in the Senate, at least right now. And while I don't think we're out of the woods on this, what I hope where we get is that, and I really mean it. So what? Number one, you should know, not that this is the solution to what you're talking about, but just so you know, the members of Congress get along fine on a personal level. I go out with lots of Republicans. I work with them out with them at the gym. We go on trips together. I know their wives. I know their kids. I mean, that's not the issue. By the way, I mean, like, they're politicians, right? I mean, they're good at, you know, shooting the breeze and getting along. That part's fine. And by the way, when that baseball shooting happened, people were genuinely heart sick. I mean, I know Joe Barton. I mean, his 2 kids were on the field with him. One is 7, one is 10. You know, they were running for their lives. I can't imagine. You know, like my kids tomorrow, my daughter will come with me to 2 of these, right? You know, like we're all human beings and we know each other. I was with him an hour and a half after the shooting. He's sitting next to me at a briefing with the Capitol Police. He's still got grass stains on his uniform. His kid's sitting next to him. You know, we don't treat each other badly on an individual basis, nor do we engage in the kind of rhetoric that you heard decried after that shooting with each other. You know, I'm not out there saying that human being is so bad. In fact, we generally tend to be respectful because we know what it feels like, right? Like even when I'm, you know, criticizing my colleague John Faso for this healthcare vote, I'm careful to say, don't go to his house, don't go near his family. You know, he has a very different point of view on this, but you should be respectful and nonviolent and peaceful, right? I mean, so we get it, I think, as individuals. So don't think we're all at each other's throats. That would be a misunderstanding. Now, doesn't mean we don't have an obligation to get things done. I do think you have a couple of things happening. One is that you don't have enough competitive seats in Congress. My seat happens to be super competitive. You know, I won by a couple of points. When I first won, I won by a couple points. When I won second, I should be doing
Which
something.
is none of the stuff I want to see done.
Yeah.
Like I said, I consider myself working in the environment. But the thing that concerns me the most is I'm slowly but surely, hopefully, reaching the age of retirement. And I keep hearing about tax reform. And the one thing that keeps me in my home is that I get the benefit of,
State local deductibility.
yes.
Yeah.
And I stand there and I go, exactly, and I feel this way about environment and everything else. It's like, guys, you guys in Congress, you guys in the president, well, the president, that's a whole other story. You have kids too. You have families you're raising too. What world are you giving them by encouraging this? And the kindness that you're talking about and the kind of being respectful of each other in the Congress, we've got an administration that's not encouraging that to the general public. So, as a victim of social media myself, I just listen to people who are not informed yelling at each other at the top of their lungs.
Right.
And I don't know what the government can do rather than to encourage it, to stop it, other than to say, keep looking to the grassroots, keep looking to 2018, and remind people that the presidency is not the only one.
He's getting a lesson in checks and balances for sure. So first thing I'd say is, you know, Senator Bonsick is a state senator, and he represents you in Albany, and there is a assembly and a senate, and they both have to pass a bill, and it has to be signed by the governor for a state law. On the federal level, I'm in the federal House of Representatives,
Okay.
and there is a U.S. Senate, and like at the state level, we both have to pass a bill, and the president has to sign it, and then it would become law. So, so I, for example, have in my short time in Congress written and passed through the House and Senate and had signed by the president 27 pieces of legislation that I'm very proud of that are right now at work. There are other bills that I have introduced that have passed just the House, and they haven't passed the Senate, so they're not law. And I can't tell you how long that's going to take. There's other bills that I've introduced that haven't passed the House, and you know, I can't tell you how long that's going to take. And so that's how it works. And the more people bang on the representatives, the more they hopefully are responsive to you, or you should throw them the heck out of office, which would be better. Honestly, I'd be happy to leave office if you'd throw out everybody else. Because there's a lot of deadwood in Congress, and people are too comfortable, and they're too darn safe in their seats, and they shouldn't be. Yeah, ma'am, go ahead.
Hi, my son's an epileptic, and he takes a high dose of medication. He has severe grand mal seizures. They're being controlled via VNS, the vagus nerve stimulator. And if I had to pay out of pocket for his meds, it'd be over $2,000. And I couldn't pay anybody else. I couldn't make a car payment. I couldn't pay any bills. I mean, it just all go for the medicine because,
Yeah. Tell me your name, ma'am.
excuse me,
What's your name?
Gail Schulman.
Gail. And how often does your son need that $2,000? How often does he need that medication refill?
How often does he take his pill?
Well, yeah. How much? Is that monthly? Is that yearly?
It's a monthly dose of medication. He takes Dilantin, Lamictal,
And that would be $2,000 probably a month.
And it's
right?
2,000. No, over 2,000 every month.
Yeah.
So if they cut Medicaid or Medicare, it'd be over 2,000 a month. So I couldn't pay zip. I just paid the pills. I couldn't eat. I mean, I'm being very realistic here. My son would die without the pills. He couldn't drive a motor vehicle. Now he's got a VNS implant, and if they cut off the Medicaid, and Medicare,
They
I'll
wouldn't
lose
have
my
cut it
car,
before.
I'll lose everything, and we won't be able to eat, and we'll have no food in the house. My utilities will be shut off. They'll repossess my vehicle, and I'll be living in the street.
Yeah.
That's pretty much where I'm at.
I'm sorry. It's Gail.
Yes, Gail.
All right, Gail. Number one, we're going to stop him from doing that. We're going to stop him from doing that.
Okay.
You're not going to live in the street.
It's
You're not going to live in your car. We're not going to do that. Over my dead body. Now, it is really important that you tell that story, because I hear that story a lot, more than you might imagine. You are not alone in this. There are a lot of people who are scared to death right now.
I'm scared. I really am
Yeah,
scared.
because it's pretty scary.
My son's
because
scared.
because it's your kid, and how they're going to get the
I lost
medicine.
one
Yeah.
child, and I'm not going to lose another one.
All right, awesome. Well, yeah, thank you for telling me that. And I want you to know that I hear that a lot, and it's why I am down there fighting every day to stop this kind of clear cutting of things like Medicaid. We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that, and we sure as heck ought not
He
to
needs
do
his
it to
pills.
give tax cuts to people,
He
right?
needs these pills because he takes 100 milligrams of Dilantin, 100 milligrams of Depakote and Lamictal, and it was just that now he's got the brain damage, and I'm trying to get him into OPWDD now, and they're taking the second look, and this is my second time with OPWDD, and it's like, it's been a very difficult journey for me. You have no idea. It's been he's been approved basically for OPWD.
You said, somebody gets grief for going out with a member of the other party. If I want to have a drink with a Republican in Washington, I can. But if I want to stand up in front of a bunch of my Democratic friends, say I'm going to work with the president and compromise on something, yeah, they don't want to hear that. And I do think that we have to, as a country, be more tolerant of viewpoints that aren't the ones we start with. Listen a little more. And I just think that, particularly if you're a Democrat, you may have noticed the other guys are winning, right? And so, if we're polarized and we're winning in the Electoral College, that's one thing. If we're polarized and we're losing the Electoral College, I want to talk to the other side. And I want to pull some of them over and understand what's going on, because they're voting for me, but they're voting for Donald Trump. So that tells me that they're up for grabs. And if, like me, you think that this thing is a dead end that the president's leading us on, I don't understand how the president is going to get good things done on the course he is on. He has not passed any major pieces of legislation. There's a reason for that. It's because you can only do so much in this procedural gimmick called reconciliation, and they've gotten very little that way. They're not going to get health care reform, I don't think. They shouldn't, and they shouldn't want to, because it's a bad bill. And they can't do anything else without getting some Democrats in the Senate. And so either we are going to do nothing, or we're going to work together. And so the sooner he kind of comes around to that realization that the only way he can succeed is by slowing down a little bit and maybe putting the Twitter account down for 5 minutes and saying, hey, I'm with everybody, and so I'm going to build 60 votes in the Senate. There are 30 or 40 Democrats in the House, some of us who represent districts that he won, but just generally, who would be happy to kind of talk about everything from infrastructure to healthcare to tax reform to debt and deficit to defense and national security. We have real work to do for you, and we should not be just trying to win the next election. So I don't want to give you a speech, but I think this is a big issue we're dealing with.
But that's why I think grassroots is so important. A few weeks ago, I was at Riverfest for the crew.
Yeah, sure.
And the thing that was great about that was that, yeah, people were there to hear the music and see the boats and all that happy stuff. And it's not just that it's one group, although they do tend to be more left of center, but they did want to do some positive things instead of just talk about, you know, it just seems to me that the minute that something serious is happening, he does something completely absurd so that everyone's focused on that. And the real work that goes on, no one's paying attention to because it's not fun. And it's
But it
not
won't last forever.
entertaining.
I mean, there are definitely days where you feel like he's got the tennis ball and we're all golden retrievers. There's no doubt about that. But you know what I'm talking about? They'll go chase that. And the news is guilty of this in spades, right? You guys, it matters what we do with your healthcare. This Russia thing, you know, may or may not matter. I don't know. But like healthcare really matters, you know. And so anyway, let me get some other people in here. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, I'm Tom Denny. I live near the Minnesing compressor station.
Yes.
And we've spoken to you before. I suffer from headaches. People I know have nosebleeds. The science is in that fracking is destroying Pennsylvania. I can offer you a tour if you can spare half a day and go to Pennsylvania. I can get you a tour of the water. They just opened a federal investigation on Ray Kempel's house. They closed it. They reopened it up because his water's been so poisoned from the fracking industry. We've got the 4th largest power plant in the country that's going to be going online in February if it's not stopped. Cuomo has to deny or accept the 401 water quality certificate on the Valley Lateral Pipeline. Many people are very upset about this. We get 30 or 40 at the picket, but there's hundreds of people who are concerned that this power plant is going to poison the Hudson Valley. Now, you've told me before that you think it's good for jobs and it's a bridge fuel. I'm a little confused, and I want to make 2 suggestions. One, please meet with us and Andrew Cuomo. If you can set that up, we'd love to.
I have met with you guys.
What's that?
I spent 2 hours with you guys in my office.
Right. No. Can you set us? Can you get a meeting with us and Cuomo? That would be amazing.
Okay.
Probably not, right?
Well, I mean, it doesn't ask me for scheduling.
Okay.
You know.
But the power plant is on top of sole source aquifer, yada yada. There's a lot of science saying that it's the wrong way to get energy. The transmission lines can be upgraded. I just lost my train of thought, but we're scared out of our minds because Pennsylvania is going to need 150 wells a year to run this plant. Renewable energy is being pushed in China, in Europe. Tillerson and Pruitt are at the top of the game with Trump, destroying whatever kind of regulations there are in DC. We've been down, we've spoken to Patrick Toomey's office, we've spoken to Schumer's office, we've spoken to Gillibrand's office. I'm a guitar teacher. I want to go back to hiking in the woods and playing guitar. I really don't want any part of this. But meanwhile, I get headaches, people around us get nosebleeds from the compressor station. This thing's going to have 80 more times the emission than the compressor station. And it's going to be 10% of the carbon footprint in New York State. Now, the transmission lines could be upgraded. Renewable energy could be brought in a lot faster than it is. We see the county jail here, where my friend Madeline Shaw just spent 4 days in jail trying to stop this plant, and with James Cromwell and Malik. And these people spent...
I know all these people, and you've come to my office, and I've met with you personally. I met with James Cromwell, I met with Cromwell Malik.
Yes.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm very familiar with the arguments you're making.
So here's my big suggestion.
Yeah.
Take the plant down. It'll give us thousands of jobs for a few years to pull the plant apart. It's no lie. When the plant goes online,
That's in this infrastructure program. We build stuff and then we rip it down.
No, but listen. When the plant goes online, 3 permanent jobs, and the wall gets poisoned.
No, all right, but hold on. Let me start where I think we can agree, which is that I am, no kidding, very sensitive to any issue that involves public health, public safety, and just hold on, because I let you hold the floor for a long time now. You and I are not going to agree as we sit here on what has to be true about how a natural gas plant operates and what health and safety risks it poses to the community. We will agree on the health and safety risks that it could present, especially if it's not done right, especially if there's been corruption involved, especially if there's been other issues, right? So what I've said to you in the past and what I really mean, and what I've been active on, is making absolutely certain that that it is safe and that it is clean in terms of the way it is both permitted and run and continued. Listen to me, I know you and I are not gonna agree on this.
No, I know.
I
But let me
but-
respond to
but-
that one point, because you're gonna say about 7 points. So let me just say, the
Well,
two professors
that would
from
be about
Cornell,
5 more than you.
but you're a politician, and the professors from Cornell came and did expert witness at the trial. Those guys know more about gas plants than you, Patrick.
Yes, it's Sean, but yeah. But
Sean.
listen, man. If your point is that you can't run a natural gas plant safely, we disagree. If your point is that we shouldn't only rely on fossil fuels, we agree. If your argument is that we can get off them tomorrow, or we can ignore that plant is there and it's going to open, I don't think that's practical. If you so what
Do we agree that gas is worse than coal?
Oh no, we don't.
Do we agree?
No, we don't.
Okay, well then you need to
No.
read the science.
No, I've read a lot of this stuff, but what is a fact is that we are significantly lower than our counterparts on carbon emission reduction, because we have of coal. And I understand your argument about methane escape, and I've heard the whole thing, man. Really,
You've heard it, but do you believe it?
What I believe is the science that will tell you that we are 17% lower in our carbon emissions than we were in the year 2000, and that is halfway to our Paris goals, and it is more than any other industrialized nation. And I also believe that we would be fools to sit there and stay on fossil fuels forever. But I also want to close Indian Point, which is happening, and that's a huge win for the environment in the Hudson Valley.
That's a shell game.
And well, if you say
That's a shell
so,
game.
if you say so, but it removes forever the danger of a nuclear accident in the Hudson Valley. So I wouldn't just skip over that, because that's a big one. That's going to give you a headache too if there's a meltdown in Indian Point, right? And so if you take seriously, how you replace 2,000 megawatts at peak performance, then where I come out is, one, we ought to have scalable conservation. That's why I carry in the House a bill called Property Assessed Clean Energy, which will allow all of you to make energy improvements to your homes with the local contractors, finance it on your property tax bill, and pass that lien with the House. That would scale conservation in a huge way, because the best new generation we can do is not to use energy, or to use it more efficiently. We agree on it.
We never hear about that, but yes.
That's very important. Well, I've been working on it for 4 years, so you're hearing about it right now. The second thing we need to do is we need to continue all the progress we've made towards true renewables. That means investment tax, that means the RGGI system. Understand in New England where we trade emissions. That means continuing the progress we've made in bringing down the cost of solar and in ramping up wind, and continuing the battery technology and research so that we can have base load with those generation sources that we don't have now. That allows us to get off of fossil fuels and not have the kind of issues we did it right now. So I'm supporting all that stuff. I support the president's clean climate plan. I've supported it right down the line. And let me tell you something else. I'm writing legislation right now that would price carbon, that will put a tax on carbon, which is really unpopular in the district I represent. So I am a politician. I'm about ready to do something that's going to piss off a lot of the people I represent, because I want to lead on this issue, not just follow. And I believe we can rebate the cost of that carbon tax to middle-class taxpayers, so you're held harmless. But this will allow the market to properly price carbon sources and internalize the external costs of destroying the climate, right? That gives us a scalable market mechanism to get onto renewables faster. So I'm not just talking about it.
Have you toured Pennsylvania?
But I mean,
Seriously.
I don't even know what that means. But
It means, have you been to the houses where they've got wells across the street?
Look, if your point is that we can't use natural gas, we're going to disagree. We're just going to. So, and you should support somebody else if that's your issue on this, because I'm never going to agree with you that we cannot use natural gas, particularly in some responsible temporary way, to get on true renewables. It will allow us to get off of coal. It will allow us to create manufacturing jobs here, to keep your energy prices low. And I know you don't value this, but there is also a huge amount of economic activity that's very positive associated with CPD that is also supported by thousands of your neighbors, right? Including the building trades guys for building it. And when you say it's no,
thousands of plates are from Louisiana, Texas.
Talk to the local building trades. What they're going to tell you is it's very important to them. And while that's not in and of itself a reason why we should do something that's unsafe, so don't misunderstand me. But it is a huge economic driver. And when you say there's no permanent jobs, I ask you to consider how many permanent jobs are there for the George Washington Bridge? Like, the point is or the Tappan Zee, how many permanent jobs are gonna be there for the Tappan Zee Bridge?
But
The point
that
is,
helps people.
These are major, well, so does
poisoning people.
affordable, available power. Because you drove here in a car, right? And
I did. I
you
would've-
cook on a
if
stove,
I could
right?
afford it, I would've
And
drove a
you need to
Tesla.
be warm in the winter, right? And so, like, all of us consume energy, boss, and I do think that it is not fair to say to those folks who are working there, hey, these are temporary jobs, because when you build something, it's always temporary. You know, you build a skyscraper, and then you go build another one. You know, there are no permanent jobs in building a skyscraper. There's people working it, but there's temporary jobs building it, right? There's a lot of temporary jobs building CPV, and it's a lot of school tax that's going to be permanent. So there's a plus side too. And all I'm saying is that it's got to be safe and it's got to be clean in terms of the process and the output. And it's got to be part of a global strategy, or a national strategy of climate reduction and of doing it time to do some good. And I believe we can do those things. And you and I are never going to agree on the particulars on this, because we've had this conversation 7 or 8 times.
Because I don't think you've heard from the people in Pennsylvania. I don't think you've been to Pennsylvania.
Well, I don't know what's different about Pennsylvania than Central New York. But
The
can we
people are
get some of
getting
this?
poisoned there. Yeah.
Well, all right. Okay. Yeah, thank
You're
you.
laughing about
The
that.
people in Pennsylvania are voting for it.
Nobody's
supporting
laughing
it,
about
so-
them being poisoned.
Yeah, all right. Okay, good. I've tried to be respectful for you. If you're going to question my motives and you don't think I care, it's not going to work.
But you're chuckling. I'm
No.
saying there are people being
No,
poisoned.
because
You're
you're saying
chuckling.
something ridiculous, which is Pennsylvania
It's not
doesn't support a
ridiculous.
thing they voted time and time again to support.
Yeah, because they're
So,
corrupt.
oh, okay, well, there you go. All right, so.
Next. Hi, I'm Fran Galloway, I'm retired, and I'm here to talk about a specific issue and answer your question. I hope I don't put you on the spot. It has to do with the fiduciary law,
What do you want? Yeah.
which is Department of Labor. I've been to your Newburgh office and spoke with Harold,
Mhm.
but soon after we did speak, fiduciary law came under another one that was trying to be passed by Congress, so the repeal of it or the adjustment to it.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
fiduciary law, you know what I'm talking
I know
about.
exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, it hurts small investors, because what they didn't,
They're pulling it, so I'm not sure. I think the Bush administration is killing it, so, I mean, it's